Do you want to improve your English in a fun and powerful way? Then watch this video till the end. In just a few minutes, you will not only learn the inspiring story of Christopher Columbus, the man who changed world history, but you will also learn real English sentences that you can use in your daily life. This is how I improved my English. By listening to real stories in simple English. You will hear new words, understand sentence structures, and feel the emotions behind every line. You'll learn how to express dreams, doubts, courage, and hope, just like Columbus did on his dangerous sea journeys. So whether you're a beginner or trying to become fluent, this video will help you grow your English, one powerful sentence at a time. Let's begin your English learning journey with the story of a man who dared to believe in the impossible. Chapter 1. A boy with big dreams. Christopher Columbus was born in the year 1451 in the port city of Genoa, Italy. His father was a wool weaver, and his family was not wealthy. From a young age, Columbus was fascinated by the sea. He would often listen to sailors' stories and imagine faraway lands. Even though he didn't receive much formal education, he was curious and eager to learn. He studied maps, read books about geography, and learned how to sail. He believed the world was round and thought he could reach Asia by sailing west instead of east. As a teenager, Columbus began working on merchant ships. These early voyages gave him experience in navigation and exposed him to different cultures. He traveled to parts of Europe and even as far as the coast of Africa. During these journeys, he witnessed the power of trade and the riches that came from distant lands. This made him even more determined to find a new sea route to Asia, where he believed he could discover gold, spices, and other valuable goods. At that time, most explorers reached Asia by sailing around Africa, a long and dangerous journey. Columbus had a different idea. He was convinced that sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean would be faster. However, many people disagreed. They thought the world was larger than Columbus believed, and they feared unknown seas. But Columbus was confident in his plan and refused to give up. He began searching for someone who would support his dream. Columbus spent years trying to convince kings and queens to fund his voyage. He went to Portugal, England, and France, but no one agreed to help. Finally, in Spain, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella showed interest. After much discussion, they agreed to support him. In 1492, they gave Columbus 3 ships, the Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and allowed him to lead a voyage west across the ocean. Columbus was finally ready to turn his dream into reality. Chapter 2. The Journey Across the Ocean. On August 3, 1492, Columbus set sail from Spain with his 3 ships and a crew of about 90 men. The ocean was vast and mysterious, and many sailors were afraid. Days turned into weeks, and the men grew worried. They had never traveled so far west, and there were no maps to guide them. The crew feared they would fall off the edge of the world, but Columbus stayed calm and confident. He encouraged his men and told them they were close to land. As the days passed, tensions rose. Some of the sailors wanted to turn back. They were tired, scared, and beginning to lose hope. Columbus made secret records of the distance they had traveled, showing less than the real number, so the crew wouldn't panic. He promised them that if they didn't find land soon, they would return. Luckily, on October 12, 1492, a sailor named Rodrigo spotted land. They had reached an island in the Bahamas. Columbus believed he had reached the East Indies, a group of islands near Asia. That's why he called the native people he met Indians. In reality, he had discovered lands that were new to Europeans, islands in the Caribbean Sea. Columbus explored several islands, including present-day Cuba and Hispaniola. The people he met were friendly and gave the explorers food and gifts. Columbus, in return, claimed the land for Spain. After spending a few months exploring, Columbus returned to Spain in early 1493. He brought with him gold, parrots, and several native people to show the Spanish rulers. He was welcomed as a hero. The king and queen were pleased with his success and gave him permission to make more voyages. Columbus was proud. He believed he had reached the edge of Asia, and he was ready to go back and explore more. Chapter 3. More voyages, more confusion. Columbus made 3 more voyages after his first journey. In 1493, he set sail again with a larger fleet and more people. This time, he hoped to build settlements and bring back more treasures. When he returned to the Caribbean, he found problems. The settlers were fighting with the native people, and many were unhappy. Columbus tried to lead them, but his skills as a governor were poor. There was chaos, and even his friends began to complain. He continued exploring the islands, searching for gold and a route to Asia. But the more he traveled, the more it became clear. This was not Asia. The lands were unfamiliar, and the people, animals, and plants were different. Still, Columbus refused to accept that he hadn't reached Asia. He believed he was near China or India and kept writing letters about it. Many others, though, started to doubt his claims. On his third voyage in 1498, Columbus reached South America. He was the first European to see the continent's northern coast. But when he returned to Hispaniola, he found the colony in even worse shape. Angry settlers accused him of being cruel and unfair. Reports of his harsh rule reached Spain. The Spanish king and queen sent officials to investigate. Columbus was arrested and sent back to Spain in chains. Though he was later freed, his reputation was damaged. Columbus was no longer treated as a hero. He lost his titles and was not given control over the colonies again. However, he still believed in his mission. In 1502, he was allowed to make one final voyage. He searched for a passage to Asia, but found only more islands and coastlines. After many hardships, storms, and sickness, he returned to Spain in 1504, tired and disappointed. Chapter 4. The Man Behind the Legend. Christopher Columbus spent his last years in Spain, mostly forgotten and in poor health. He felt the world had not given him the honor he deserved. He had opened the way for European exploration, but he didn't receive the wealth or fame he had expected. Despite his many letters and reports, people no longer believed he had found Asia. New explorers had proven that he had found new continents, not the Indies. Columbus died in 1506 at the age of 54, still believing he had reached parts of Asia. He never knew the true importance of his discovery. He was buried in Valladolid, Spain, and later his remains were moved several times. Some say they rest in Seville, while others believe they lie in the Dominican Republic. Even in death, his story remained a subject of debate and mystery. In the years that followed, more explorers crossed the Atlantic. They reached North and South America and began building settlements. The New World changed the course of history. Although Columbus wasn't the first to discover the Americas, indigenous peoples had lived there for thousands of years. His voyages connected Europe and the Americas in a lasting way. Trade, colonization, and cultural exchange all began with his journeys. Columbus became a symbol of exploration and courage, but also of colonization and cruelty. Today, opinions about him are divided. Some see him as a brave explorer who changed the world, while others criticize his actions toward native people. His story is taught in schools, discussed in debates, and remembered every year on Columbus Day in many places. Whether seen as hero or villain, his impact is undeniable. Chapter 5. The Legacy of a Controversial Explorer. Christopher Columbus's legacy is complex and full of contradictions. On one hand, he showed courage by sailing into the unknown. His voyages led to great changes in history. The age of exploration, the exchange of goods and ideas, and the founding of new countries. His name became famous around the world. Cities, streets, and schools were named after him. Monuments were built to honor his daring spirit. On the other hand, Columbus's arrival also brought pain and suffering. European settlers took land from indigenous people, spread diseases, and started the slave trade in the Americas. Columbus himself captured native people and forced them to work. Many died from violence, illness, or starvation. For these reasons, some people now question whether he should be celebrated as a hero. In recent years, there has been growing discussion about how we remember Columbus. Some cities have replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day to honor the native communities that were harmed. Books and documentaries explore the full story of his life, showing both the bravery and the brutality. The goal is not to erase history, but to understand it more honestly. Christopher Columbus remains one of the most famous and debated figures in history. He crossed an ocean and changed the world forever. His story reminds us that history is not always simple. Behind every great discovery, there can be both light and shadow. Columbus's life teaches us to look deeper, ask questions, and remember that history belongs to everyone, not just those who wrote it. If this story helped you learn something new or made you feel something deep, then don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with a friend who also wants to learn English, and leave a comment with the word explorer to show you watched till the end. Every comment helps more learners find this channel, and every like tells us to keep creating better and better content for you. And remember, you're not just learning English, you're discovering the world with every word you understand. So subscribe for more real-life stories told in simple English. See you in the next journey.